Hollywood shines with fame and fortune, but what happens when the spotlight fades and the prison gates close? Can power, money, and influence truly shield a celebrity from justice? From producers once called untouchable, to singers who defined entire generations, to actors and reality stars who lived in luxury, many are now remembered not for their art, but for their crimes. Their files reveal fraud, assault, exploitation, and even murder cases that stripped away the illusion of invincibility. In this countdown, we uncover 20 celebrities still locked up in the year 2025, or whose legacies remain tied to prison walls. Which story will shock you the most? And can you ever separate the fame they earned from the justice they could not escape? 20. Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein was once one of the most influential figures in Hollywood. As co-founder of Miramax, he produced award-winning films, including Pulp Fiction, Shakespeare in Love, and Good Will Hunting. His control over independent cinema in the 1990s and 2000s was unmatched, and his approval could determine whether a film achieved critical acclaim or faded into obscurity. He was known as the man behind countless Oscar campaigns, shaping the careers of actors and directors who dared not cross him. That towering reputation collapsed in the year 2017 when a wave of allegations surfaced. Dozens of women accused Weinstein of harassment, manipulation, and sexual assault. What began as whispered rumors exploded into a global scandal, sparking the Me Too movement and transforming conversations about accountability in the entertainment industry. The courtroom became the stage for his reckoning, as prosecutors laid out years of intimidation and abuse that had thrived in silence. In the year 2020, Weinstein was convicted in New York of rape and sexual assault, receiving a 23-year sentence. 2 years later, a Los Angeles court found him guilty of additional charges, adding 16 more years. Today, in the year 2025, he remains incarcerated, serving nearly 4 decades. Once seen as the kingmaker of Hollywood, Weinstein now serves as an inmate, his empire dismantled and his name synonymous with abuse of power. His downfall is not only a personal tragedy but also a turning point in Hollywood history, proving that even the most untouchable figures cannot escape justice forever. 19. R. Kelly. R. Kelly, once crowned the King of R&B, was a global music powerhouse. With unforgettable hits like I Believe I Can Fly and Ignition remix, his voice defined a generation, earning him Grammy Awards and legions of fans around the world. He collaborated with some of the biggest names in music and built a reputation as an untouchable superstar whose songs became cultural anthems. For decades, Kelly was celebrated as an artist who could inspire and entertain millions. But behind the glossy image was a darker reality. Allegations of abuse, manipulation, and exploitation followed him for years, often dismissed or ignored by those who profited from his success. Survivors later described how his fame created a shield of silence around his actions. In the year 2022, a New York court convicted him of racketeering and sex trafficking, sentencing him to 30 years in federal prison. A few months later, a Chicago court added a 20-year sentence for child pornography and enticement of minors, though most of that time was set to run concurrently. The trials were a cultural reckoning. Survivors testified to the years of trauma they endured, while prosecutors painted a picture of a pattern of predation that lasted for decades. One victim declared, "For the first time, I finally feel heard," underscoring how important the conviction was beyond just one man's fate. As of the year 2025, R. Kelly remains in custody, facing more than 3 decades behind bars. Once celebrated as a musical genius, his name is now inseparable from scandal. His story stands as one of the most dramatic downfalls in popular music, raising difficult questions about whether it is possible or even right to separate art from the crimes of the artist. 18. Suge Knight. Suge Knight was once the most feared and respected figure in West Coast hip-hop. As the co-founder of Death Row Records, he helped shape the careers of Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Tupac Shakur, creating a label that came to symbolize the golden age of rap in the 1990s. Knight's imposing presence and business acumen turned him into a cultural powerhouse, someone whose influence reached far beyond music. To many, he embodied both the success and the menace of the hip-hop world. But his empire was shadowed by violence. Stories of intimidation, threats, and physical altercations followed him throughout his career, fueling the legend of a man who ruled by fear. That reputation caught up with him in the year 2015, when a confrontation on a film set ended in tragedy. Knight drove his truck into two men, killing one and injuring the other. The incident, caught on camera, left little doubt and marked the final collapse of his career. In the year 2018, he pleaded no contest to voluntary manslaughter and was sentenced to 28 years in state prison. The judge cited his long history of violence, noting that the sentence reflected both the seriousness of the crime and the pattern of behavior that had followed him for decades. As of the year 2025, Suge Knight remains incarcerated in California. Once hailed as the architect of West Coast rap's dominance, he is now remembered equally for his role in shaping music history and for the violence that defined his downfall. His case illustrates how unchecked power and intimidation can eventually lead not to more control, but to complete collapse. 17. Danny Masterson. Danny Masterson rose to fame as Stephen Hyde on That 70s Show, a sitcom that defined late 90s television. With his sarcastic humor and effortlessly cool demeanor, he became a fan favorite, cementing his status as one of TV's familiar faces. His success extended into film and other television projects, and for years he seemed to embody the laid-back charm of a Hollywood actor enjoying steady stardom. But behind that image, accusations of sexual assault began to emerge, dating back to the height of his career. Several women came forward with accounts of being attacked by Masterson, and many alleged that his ties to the Church of Scientology shielded him from accountability for years. The survivors described efforts to silence them, creating a chilling picture of how celebrity and influence can delay justice. After long delays and failed mistrial attempts, the case finally reached its conclusion in the year 2023. A Los Angeles jury convicted Masterson on 2 counts of rape. The judge handed down a severe sentence, 30 years to life in prison. During sentencing, survivors addressed the court directly, saying that the assaults had not only harmed them physically, but had stolen their sense of safety and spirit. As of the year 2025, Masterson remains in a California state prison. His career, once defined by sitcom laughter, is now irreparably tied to a narrative of violence and abuse. His story reflects how even familiar television stars who built careers on being welcomed into America's living rooms can fall when truth finally confronts privilege and silence. 16. Joe Exotic. Joe Exotic, born Joseph Maldonado Passage, was one of the most unexpected celebrity figures of the 2020s. His eccentric persona, country music ambitions, and zoo filled with big cats made him the breakout star of Netflix's Tiger King, a documentary series that became a global sensation during the early months of the pandemic. For a short time, his wild personality and larger-than-life character turned him into a cultural phenomenon. But behind the spectacle was a story of obsession and crime. Joe Exotic's long-running feud with animal rights activist Carole Baskin escalated into shocking territory. In the year 2019, federal investigators revealed that he had attempted to hire a hitman to kill Baskin. Alongside this, prosecutors detailed years of animal abuse and violations connected to his roadside zoo, exposing the darker side of his fame. The following year, he was sentenced to 21 years in federal prison after being found guilty of multiple charges, including attempted murder for hire and wildlife crimes. His appeals have been denied, and his early claims of being a political prisoner or victim of conspiracy have failed to gain traction in court. As of the year 2025, Joe Exotic remains behind bars, his fame long since faded. Once A viral star with millions of viewers watching his chaotic life unfold, he is now remembered less for entertainment value and more as a case study in how cruelty, obsession, and reckless ambition can destroy everything. His downfall shows that even the strangest forms of celebrity cannot escape accountability. 15. Elizabeth Holmes. Elizabeth Holmes was once celebrated as a visionary entrepreneur, the founder of Theranos, and the youngest self-made female billionaire in America. With her trademark black turtlenecks and carefully crafted image, she positioned herself as the Silicon Valley equivalent of Steve Jobs. Backed by billions in investments and the endorsement of powerful political and business figures, Holmes promised to revolutionize healthcare with a device that could run hundreds of tests from just a single drop of blood. For years, she was hailed as a genius, appearing on magazine covers and speaking at global conferences. But the image was built on deception. Investigations revealed that Theranos' technology simply did not work. Patients were misdiagnosed, investors were misled, and the so-called medical breakthrough collapsed under scrutiny. The fall of Theranos quickly became one of the largest corporate frauds in modern American history. In the year 2022, Holmes was convicted on multiple counts of wire fraud and conspiracy. The following year, she was sentenced to 11 years and 3 months in federal prison. Prosecutors argued that her actions not only cost investors hundreds of millions, but also put the health of ordinary people at risk. As of the year 2025, Holmes is serving her sentence in a Texas federal facility. Her name, once associated with innovation, is now a cautionary tale about ambition without integrity. Her downfall illustrates how quickly admiration can turn to condemnation when lies replace science, and how the pursuit of power can lead even the brightest visionaries into disgrace. 14. Sean Diddy Combs. Sean Diddy Combs was once considered untouchable in the world of music and business. From his early days at Uptown Records to founding Bad Boy Records, he helped launch the careers of icons like the notorious B.I.G., while expanding into fashion, television, and liquor brands. His empire turned him into one of hip-hop's first billionaire moguls, a symbol of both cultural influence and financial power. But in the year 2024, that image cracked under the weight of a sweeping federal investigation. Authorities raided his properties in multiple states, uncovering evidence tied to accusations of coercion, drug use, and transporting women across state lines for exploitation. The case was a media spectacle, dominating headlines and sparking intense debate about whether one of hip-hop's most powerful men would finally face serious consequences. The trial in the summer of 2025 lasted 7 weeks and ended with a mixed verdict. Combs was acquitted of the most severe charges, including racketeering and sex trafficking, but convicted on 2 counts of transporting women for prostitution. He was immediately denied bail and taken into custody at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, where he now awaits sentencing. Legal experts predict a punishment of several years, a dramatic shift for a man once believed to be above the law. As of the year 2025, Sean Diddy Combs remains incarcerated, his career and reputation on hold. Once celebrated as a pioneer who changed the landscape of music and culture, he is now at the center of a legal battle that may define how history remembers him. His case stands as a stark example of how power and fame cannot shield someone forever when accountability finally arrives. 13. Sean Kingston. Sean Kingston burst onto the music scene in the year 2007 with his reggae-infused pop anthem Beautiful Girls. The song topped charts worldwide, and his blend of island-inspired sounds and youthful charm made him one of the most recognizable teenage stars of that era. For a while, Kingston lived the dream, performing on global stages and enjoying the rewards of sudden fame. Yet his career stalled, and by the mid-2020s, his name reappeared in headlines for reasons far removed from music. In May of the year 2024, federal agents raided his Florida mansion while he was away performing in California. The investigation revealed that Kingston, along with his mother, was involved in a sophisticated fraud scheme that used falsified wire transfer receipts to obtain luxury items, including jewelry and high-end vehicles, without payment. The losses totaled over $1 million. His trial in March of the year 2025 ended with convictions on multiple counts of conspiracy and wire fraud. Later that summer, the judge sentenced him to 3.5 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release. His attempts to avoid immediate custody on medical grounds were denied, and he was taken into federal custody at sentencing. As of the year 2025, Sean Kingston remains behind bars, his once bright career overshadowed by deception and fraud. Once known as the voice of summer, he is now remembered as another fallen star, an example of how poor decisions and greed can turn fleeting fame into lasting disgrace. 12. Jen Shah. Jen Shah became a breakout star on The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Her larger-than-life personality, designer outfits, and extravagant lifestyle made her a central figure on the show. To audiences, she represented both the glamour and the volatility that made the franchise so addictive. But in the year 2021, her world unraveled when federal prosecutors charged her with leading a nationwide telemarketing scheme. According to investigators, the operation had run for nearly a decade and specifically targeted elderly and vulnerable victims. Call centers under her control promised financial services that never existed, stealing millions of dollars and leaving devastation in its wake. Facing mounting evidence, Shah eventually pleaded guilty in the year 2022 to conspiracy to commit wire fraud. The following year, she was sentenced to 6.5 years in federal prison, though that term was later reduced to about 5.5 years based on restitution and credit for good behavior. At her sentencing, she admitted wrongdoing, telling the court that she had ignored her conscience and that she was deeply sorry for the people she had harmed. As of the year 2025, Jen Shah remains incarcerated. Once seen as a reality TV celebrity living in luxury, she is now serving time in a federal facility. Her downfall underscores how quickly the glitter of fame can fade when greed and exploitation take center stage, turning a reality star into a real-life cautionary tale. 11. Jared Fogle. Jared Fogle rose to fame in the early 2000s as the unlikely face of Subway. His story of losing more than 200 pounds by eating sandwiches captured national attention, transforming him into a marketing sensation. For over a decade, he appeared in commercials, toured schools, and served as a motivational figure for health and weight loss. To millions, he was the smiling, approachable symbol of a global brand. That image shattered in the year 2015, when federal investigators revealed Fogle's disturbing double life. Authorities discovered his possession of child pornography and evidence that he had crossed state lines to engage in sexual activity with minors. The revelations stunned the public, particularly parents and children who had seen him as a role model. In court, Fogle pleaded guilty to charges of child pornography and illicit sexual conduct with minors. He was sentenced to 15 years and 8 months in federal prison, with a minimum of 13 before eligibility for release. He was also ordered to pay restitution to his victims and register as a sex offender for life. The judge, during sentencing, condemned his crimes as a profound betrayal of trust and a serious danger to society. As of the year 2025, Jared Fogle remains incarcerated in a federal facility. His story illustrates one of the sharpest falls from grace in modern advertising history. Once celebrated as proof that personal discipline could change lives, he is now remembered only for the crimes that erased every trace of his former success. 10. Gary Glitter. Gary Glitter, born Paul Gadd, was one of the brightest stars of the 1970s glam rock movement. With flamboyant costumes, glittering stage performances, and hits like Rock and Roll Part 2, he became an international sensation. His songs echoed in stadiums and on radios worldwide, making him one of the era's most recognizable performers. For years, he embodied excess and spectacle, a man whose fame seemed untouchable. Yet beneath the glitter was a history of abuse. Allegations of child sexual exploitation followed him for decades, with multiple convictions abroad before his final downfall in the United Kingdom. In the year 2015, a British court convicted him of sexually abusing 3 underage girls during the late 1970s. He was sentenced to 16 years in prison, with prosecutors describing his crimes as part of a long-term campaign of abuse against vulnerable children. After serving half of his sentence, Glitter was briefly released in the year 2023, but within weeks, he was recalled to custody for violating the conditions of his release. The decision reignited public anger, reinforcing how deeply his actions had scarred his victims and the public's trust. As of the year 2025, Gary Glitter remains behind bars in Britain. His name, once synonymous with stadium anthems and rock stardom, has become a permanent symbol of disgrace. His case illustrates how fame can collapse under the weight of repeated crimes, leaving behind a legacy defined not by music, but by shame. 9. Amy Locane. Amy Locane was once a promising young actress of the 1990s, remembered for her role in Melrose Place and for starring alongside Johnny Depp in the cult film Cry Baby. With her youthful energy and natural screen presence, she seemed destined for a long and successful career in Hollywood. At the height of her fame, she was often spoken of as one of television's rising stars. That promise ended in tragedy. In the year 2010, while driving under the influence, Locane caused a crash that killed a 60-year-old woman and seriously injured another passenger. The incident shocked the public and devastated the victims' families. Almost overnight, Locane's Hollywood image was erased, replaced by headlines about recklessness and loss. Her legal battle stretched for years. In the year 2012, she was convicted of vehicular homicide. Multiple appeals and resentencings followed, with courts re-evaluating the severity of her punishment. Ultimately, in the year 2020, she was ordered to serve an 8-year prison sentence with a requirement of more than 6 years before parole eligibility. Locane herself expressed deep remorse, admitting in interviews that she lives every day with the weight of what happened. Though she was released in late 2024, her career never recovered. By the year 2025, Amy Locane is no longer incarcerated, but her name remains forever tied to the fatal crash. Her story stands as a stark reminder of how one reckless decision can destroy lives, end a career, and turn fame into a lasting tragedy. 8. O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson was once one of the most celebrated athletes in America. A Heisman Trophy winner and NFL star, he transitioned into acting and sports commentary after his football career, becoming a household name. In the 1970s and 80s, his charm and athletic achievements made him a symbol of success, admired far beyond the sports world. That image collapsed with the infamous trial of the century in the mid-1990s. Simpson was charged with the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman. The televised trial captured global attention and divided the nation. Though he was acquitted in criminal court in the year 1995, the case left him polarizing and forever marked by suspicion. A civil trial later found him liable for wrongful death, further complicating his public legacy. His troubles did not end there. In the year 2007, Simpson and a group of men carried out an armed confrontation in a Las Vegas hotel to reclaim sports memorabilia he claimed had been stolen. The following year, he was convicted of armed robbery and kidnapping and sentenced to as many as 33 years in prison. He served 9 years before being granted parole in the year 2017. Simpson died in the year 2024, but his years in prison remain part of his legacy. By the year 2025, his name is remembered not only for his athletic triumphs, but also for one of the most notorious legal sagas in American history. His life story illustrates the fragile line between fame and infamy, showing how quickly a celebrated hero can become defined by scandal and crime. 7. Wesley Snipes. Wesley Snipes was one of Hollywood's most bankable action stars during the 1990s. Known for his roles in Blade, Passenger 57, and Demolition Man, he built a reputation as a charismatic leading man who combined martial arts ability with on-screen intensity. At his peak, Snipes was seen as a dependable box office draw and one of the few black actors consistently landing major action roles in Hollywood. Yet while his career seemed unstoppable, financial and legal problems began to build. In the year 2008, Snipes was convicted on 3 misdemeanor counts of failing to file federal income tax returns. Prosecutors revealed that he had neglected to pay tens of millions of dollars in taxes over several years, despite earning fortunes through his films. The case drew headlines worldwide, with many shocked that such a prominent star would risk prison by ignoring his obligations. In the year 2010, Snipes reported to a federal prison in Pennsylvania to serve a 3-year sentence. For a man who played superheroes and warriors on screen, wearing a prison uniform marked a stunning reversal of fortune. During his incarceration, his career stalled, and Hollywood largely moved on to other stars. He was released in the year 2013 and has since returned to acting, though never at the same level of fame he once enjoyed. By the year 2025, Wesley Snipes is remembered both as the man who brought Blade to life and as a cautionary tale of how even Hollywood's strongest heroes are not immune to accountability when they fail to meet their responsibilities. 6. Lori Loughlin. Lori Loughlin was long admired for her wholesome roles, most famously as Aunt Becky on the beloved sitcom Full House. To many fans, she embodied warmth and family values, becoming one of television's most recognizable maternal figures. For decades, her reputation seemed untarnished, built on steady work and a clean public image. That changed dramatically in the year 2019, when federal prosecutors exposed the nationwide college admissions scandal. Loughlin and her husband were accused of paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to secure their daughter's admission into the University of Southern California. Investigators revealed staged photographs and falsified athletic credentials designed to portray the girls as recruits for the rowing team. The scandal, dubbed Operation Varsity Blues, dominated headlines and triggered national outrage. Many saw it as proof of how privilege and wealth could manipulate a system meant to reward merit. Loughlin initially pleaded not guilty, but mounting evidence pushed her to change her plea. In the year 2020, she admitted to conspiracy charges and was sentenced to 2 months in federal prison, along with fines and community service. Though her sentence was relatively short, the damage was long-lasting. Her career opportunities shrank, and her once pristine image was overshadowed by association with the scandal. By the year 2025, Lori Loughlin has made tentative returns to acting, but her name remains permanently tied to the case. Her fall illustrates how even the most trusted television stars can lose everything when caught abusing privilege. 5. Felicity Huffman. Felicity Huffman built her reputation as a respected and versatile actress. She earned widespread acclaim for her performance in the series Desperate Housewives, and received an Academy Award nomination for her work in Transamerica. For years, she was seen as a serious artist who balanced critical recognition with mainstream popularity. That image collapsed in the year 2019, when Huffman was named in the sweeping college admissions scandal, the same case that involved Lori Loughlin. Prosecutors revealed that Huffman had paid $15,000 to inflate her daughter's SAT scores through a fraudulent testing scheme. The revelation shocked fans who had long admired her for her professionalism and apparent integrity. Unlike many others charged, Huffman quickly admitted her guilt. In a public statement, she expressed remorse, acknowledging that her actions were motivated by fear of being a bad parent rather than malice. She pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit mail fraud and honest services fraud. Later that year, she was sentenced to 14 days in federal prison, ordered to pay a fine, and assigned community service. Though her time behind bars was short, the scandal left a lasting mark on her career. The actress who once graced red carpets with respect and admiration now carried the stigma of dishonesty and privilege. By the year 2025, Huffman has cautiously returned to acting in smaller projects, but the shadow of the admissions case lingers. Her story stands as a reminder that even acclaimed talents can lose credibility when personal choices cross into crime. 4. Chris Brown. Chris Brown entered the music world in the mid-2000s as a teenage prodigy, with his debut single, Run It, topping charts. His smooth voice and electrifying dance moves drew comparisons to Michael Jackson. By the time he released hits like Forever and With You, Brown had cemented himself as one of the most promising young artists of his generation, selling millions of records and winning awards worldwide. But in the year 2009, his carefully crafted image was shattered. News broke that Brown had violently assaulted his then-girlfriend Rihanna, leaving the public stunned. The incident dominated headlines, sparking outrage and transforming him from a rising superstar into one of the most controversial figures in music. Though he apologized publicly and sought to repair his image, more accusations of violence and erratic behavior would follow him in the years ahead. Legal troubles mounted as he faced probation violations, altercations, and further arrests. In the year 2014, after violating probation terms linked to the Rihanna case, he was sentenced to serve time in prison. For fans who had watched him rise so quickly, seeing him behind bars was a stark reminder of how self-destructive choices could erase years of hard-earned success. While Brown eventually returned to music and continues to release popular tracks, his reputation has never fully recovered. By the year 2025, his legacy remains deeply divided, admired by some for his undeniable talent, condemned by others for his violent past. His story underscores how quickly the line between stardom and scandal can vanish, leaving behind a career defined as much by controversy as by creativity. 3. Tory Lanez. Tory Lanez emerged as one of the most versatile performers in modern hip-hop and R&B. Known for seamlessly blending rap, dancehall, and melodic vocals, he built a reputation as an artist who could thrive across genres. With chart-topping mixtapes, collaborations with major stars, and sold-out tours, Lanez looked poised to dominate the industry for years to come. His music drew millions of streams, and his fan base stretched across continents. That trajectory collapsed after a violent confrontation in the summer of 2020. Lanez was accused of shooting fellow artist Megan Thee Stallion in the foot during an argument after a party in Los Angeles. The shocking allegation divided the music world and ignited heated debates about misogyny, accountability, and the culture of silence surrounding violence against women in the industry. The case moved slowly through the courts, but remained under the public spotlight. In the year 2023, a Los Angeles jury found Lanez guilty of 3 felony charges, including assault with a semi-automatic firearm. The following year, he was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Despite his defense team's attempts to appeal and public campaigns arguing for leniency, the conviction stood. As of the year 2025, Tory Lanez remains behind bars, his once promising career frozen. For fans, his story is a painful reminder of how quickly stardom can vanish when violence and reckless choices take center stage. The artist once seen as a rising force in music is now a cautionary tale, remembered more for the trial that defined him than for the songs that first made him famous. 2. C-Murder. Corey Miller, better known by his stage name C-Murder, rose to fame in the late 1990s as part of the New Orleans-based No Limit Records empire founded by his brother, Master P. His gritty lyrics and raw style earned him credibility in the southern rap scene, and his albums achieved commercial success, making him a respected figure in hip-hop's golden era. To many fans, he embodied authenticity, a voice that spoke directly from the streets. But in the year 2002, his career came to a halt after a violent incident outside a Louisiana nightclub. Miller was accused of fatally shooting a 16-year-old fan during a confrontation. The case quickly drew national attention, both for its brutality and for the fact that a rising rap star stood at the center of the allegations. After years of legal battles, questions about evidence, and claims of witness coercion, a jury convicted him of second-degree murder in the year 2009. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The conviction has remained controversial. Some supporters argue that the trial was flawed and that unreliable testimony was used to secure his conviction. Public campaigns, including efforts from celebrities like Kim Kardashian and his own family, have advocated for a retrial or clemency. Despite these efforts, the courts have upheld the verdict. As of the year 2025, C. Murder remains incarcerated at the Louisiana State Penitentiary. His case continues to divide opinion. To some, he is a convicted murderer serving justice. To others, he is a victim of a broken system. Either way, his story illustrates how quickly success can unravel when violence and the criminal justice system collide, leaving a legacy defined by tragedy and controversy. 1. Phil Spector. Phil Spector was hailed as one of the greatest music producers of the 20th century. He revolutionized recording with his trademark wall of sound, a technique that layered instruments to create a powerful orchestral effect. His influence extended across generations, shaping the work of the Ronettes, the Righteous Brothers, the Beatles, and countless others. For decades, Spector was regarded as a genius whose innovations changed popular music forever. Behind the scenes, however, he developed a reputation for volatility and control. Stories circulated of his erratic behavior, especially his obsession with firearms. These tendencies came to light in the year 2003, when actress Lana Clarkson was found dead in Spector's Los Angeles mansion. The case shocked the entertainment industry, turning the legendary producer into the center of a murder investigation. After years of legal wrangling and a mistrial, Spector was retried in the year 2009. Prosecutors presented a history of threats and intimidation, showing how Spector's private life was marked by violence. That year, he was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 19 years to life in prison. For a man once celebrated as a genius, the courtroom verdict was a devastating end. Spector remained incarcerated until his death in the year 2021. By the year 2025, his legacy remains deeply conflicted. On one hand, his production work is still studied and admired by musicians and historians. On the other, his name is forever tied to murder and abuse. His story demonstrates the uneasy balance between artistic brilliance and personal downfall, leaving the world to ask, can creative genius ever outweigh the cost of human life? These 20 cases show the other side of Hollywood, a place where fame and influence cannot erase the consequences of crime. From producers and musicians to actors and reality stars, each name on this list built a career that touched millions, only to see it collapse inside a courtroom. Some remain incarcerated for decades to come, while others have already passed away or served their terms. Yet the common thread is clear. Celebrity status does not guarantee immunity. Their stories leave us with difficult questions. Can society separate talent from wrongdoing? Should their artistic legacies survive, or should their crimes define them forever? What is certain is that in the year 2025, the prison system holds some of Hollywood's most recognizable names, standing as a reminder that even at the highest levels of fame, accountability remains inescapable.